39 and 80 on the year. This is a tweet from The Athletic. Fernando Tatis Jr. was previously expected to be at Petco Park today. That now sounds unlikely. It's unclear when Tatis will be at the ballpark. It's still expected that Tatis will meet with A.J. Preller and Peter Seidler and Bob Melvin. Now, Jurickson Profar voiced his support for Fernando Tatis Jr. Profar said the two have been speaking every day. Quote, "He's feeling very bad," Profar said. "You make one mistake and everyone wants to crucify you, but not me. I'm there to support him and get him through this." That's being a teammate. Well said, Jurickson Profar. Back in Studio 42 with Bo Porter, managing the big leagues. He's had to deal with players at all different types of levels. So you're like the perfect guy to chat with about this. At some point, Bob Melvin's going to talk to Fernando Tatis. And I can't imagine what that conversation would be like. But you've been in a crisis management situation with players before. So I want you to put that cap on. You're Bob Melvin. And I would love to see Fernando Tatis if he could appear in Studio 42. So, Dan, do you mind being Fernando Tatis for us?
I'd love to.
All right, thanks, man. So just do me a favor. Don't move, and we'll make believe you're Fernando Tatis Jr. All right? Thanks, Dan. You're doing great. All right, so Fernando Tatis is right over there. Thanks, Dan. But what would you say to Fernando Tatis?
Well, the first thing, Bob Melvin is actually in a unique position because he has not been in San Diego for the duration of Tatis's career. But where there's smoke, there's fire. And there's been a lot of smoke around Tatis, and now you have the suspension. If I'm Bob Melvin, I had this situation with a guy named Bud Norris when I took over in Houston. Teammates didn't like him. There was a lot of smoke around him. And what I did was I brought him into my office, and literally I wrote on the whiteboard all of the things that people had told me about Bud Norris. And I handed him the eraser. And I said, "Do me a favor. Go up to that whiteboard." He goes, "What do you want me to do?" I said, "I want you to erase all of that." So he erased it. I said, "What do you see?" He said, "A clean whiteboard." I said, "Okay, that's where we're going to start from. We're going to start from a clean slate." Because the last thing Bob Melvin needs to do is to start to dive into all of the smoke that's out there about Tatis. Right now, what he needs is someone to put their arms around him and say, "This is what I need you to do." Because right now, one of the questions that he would have to answer is, do you want to be the exception or do you want to be the standard? You're one of the best players on the team. Now, you can be the exception and you're going to make my job hard because I'm going to have to draw the line with you somewhere along the way. Or you could become the standard. You're going to make my job easier and you're going to make everybody around you better.
Wow.
That's the conversation.
That's deep, man. I love that. Dan, great job. I'm not done with you, Dan. Do you mind being Jarren Duran, the center fielder for the Red Sox?
Would love to be.
All right, so Dan's going to be Jarren Duran.
Dan has been a lot of guys tonight.
He's multi-talented. He can wear many caps. Right now he's doing that literally for us. So this young man had a moment with Kansas City baseball fans that really, I'm sure he wishes he could take back. He starts swearing at the crowd. His teammates had to pull him away, and he had tears in his eyes when Alex Cora was chatting with him. What do you think Alex was saying to this young center fielder who's been struggling mightily at the plate at the big league level?
Well, I know Alex Cora really well. He played for me in Washington, great manager. And Alex probably was just explaining to him, at the end of the day, that's a battle you're never going to win. It's almost like don't fight City Hall. You're not going to win. Yeah. And as a player, it's very difficult sometimes to control your emotions and understand that the fan is trying to do everything that they can to get underneath your skin. And Alex probably just pulled him aside and just said, "Hey, look, I understand your emotions got the best of you, but realize that you cannot let your emotions run away. Control them."
Well, hopefully Jarren Duran was listening to that. Well, come on now, settle down. That's really good, Bo. All right, one more player. This back in July. I'm taken aback by this. Genesis Cabrera, who's been a weapon for Oli Marmol, a young manager, one of the youngest in the sport. He comes to get the ball from the left-hander, and he had just given up a knock, thought he was going to put the batter away. And Genesis was very frustrated. And this moment, I was taken aback by, as Dan is now playing Genesis Cabrera. He slams the ball down, and look at Oli Marmol wrap his arms around him there for a second. What would you say to a young reliever who who clearly isn't a happy camper at that moment.
Well, one thing you got to realize, when you're in a leadership position, one of the things that you have to make sure that you keep control over it is your own emotions. And your job as a leader is to diffuse the situation. So I felt like the manager did a great job. One, he grabbed them. It did not become confrontational on the mound. That is a conversation that you definitely want to have with the player. It's probably not even the right time to have it in the dugout when you get back in, because emotions are running high. You give the player a chance to cool off. It may be the next day, and it may not even be a situation where I call him into my office. It may be doing batting practice. I may just walk out in the outfield and just start chopping it up like, okay, man, let's talk about yesterday.
Yeah.
Now, I understand, you may want to stay in the game, but, there's cameras all around here. And when things like that happen, I'm going to have to answer questions. You're going to have to answer questions. And that's not what we need as a ball club. So you put it more so back on the players' onus and have them realize that we're in this thing together, and we have to make sure that we take care of each other.
Those left-handed relievers, they're hard to get a hold of, man.
Yeah.
They are. And you didn't get a chance to see all the shenanigans that Dan Plesac. He couldn't sit still. It was just the wrong guy to ask to do that favor for us, Dan. That was just...
Thank you.
Best segment ever.